Nokia didn't collapse because it lacked resources. It collapsed because it moved too slowly. Many people believe the surface explanation, a simple narrative that is easy to recall but ultimately incomplete. They say Nokia lost the war to smartphones, a sudden and unexpected shift that caught the industry giant off guard. While true on the surface, this explanation misses the deeper, more instructive reason for its fall from grace. The company was not a fragile entity waiting to be toppled by a single innovation. It was a titan of industry, a global behemoth, immense financial power, unparalleled brand recognition, distribution network that reached every corner of the planet. It was not weakness that brought it down. The true story is one of structural decay, hidden beneath a veneer of market dominance. The real reasons for the collapse were far more complex and had been building for years, long before the first iPhone was ever revealed to the world. These reasons were not about a single product or a single competitor. They were about the internal mechanics of the company itself. The root causes were a dangerously slow transition of its operating system, a stifling internal bureaucracy that prioritized politics over progress, a critical lag in genuine innovation that left it perpetually behind the curve. These were not sudden shocks. They were chronic conditions that eroded the company's ability to act. Understanding this distinction is not just an academic exercise in business history. It is a crucial lesson in corporate risk management for today's professionals and entrepreneurs. The signals that warned of Nokia's impending decline were present, but they were ignored or misinterpreted by leadership. These signals were not found in quarterly earnings reports or market share figures alone. They were embedded in the operational DNA of the organization, the time it took to approve a project, the friction between software and hardware divisions, the company's muted response to the burgeoning world of app ecosystems. The story of Nokia is a powerful case study in how organizational structure dictates speed and ultimately survival. Today, we will dissect the exact risk signals that Nokia overlooked. We are not here to recount a nostalgic story of a beloved brand. Instead, we will apply a structured framework to understand the mechanics of its failure. This analysis will provide a clear model for how you can identify similar risks within your own organization or ventures. We will examine the gap between a company's structure and the speed required to compete in a rapidly changing market. This episode is about converting a historical collapse into a practical tool for building resilience. By the end, you will understand how to avoid making the same fundamental mistake of being slow when the world demands speed. To properly understand Nokia's decline, we must move beyond simple timelines and see the underlying forces at play. We will evaluate this collapse across three structural dimensions: internal bureaucracy, the software ecosystem, slow adaptation to integrated software and services. Each is a critical failure of speed. Our framework, the speed versus structure gap. It measures the invisible drags on performance. Metric 1, decision cycle length, how long decisions took to be made and executed. Metric 2, innovation, pipeline speed, how fast ideas became market-ready products. Metric 3, internal communication friction, how well information flowed across factions. These metrics show Nokia had ideas, but a structure that strangled them. This approach is practical, a diagnostic tool. It creates a template leaders can use to assess organizational health. The goal? Spot structural weaknesses before they become crises. Collapse is rarely sudden. It's the final result of long erosion of core capabilities. The warning signs are there for those who know where to look. Delay in responding to signals proves fatal. We'll translate these lessons into an actionable plan. First, a formula to measure your decision lag risk. Next, a tactical 3-step resilience shield to boost agility. Finally, a 30, 60, 90-day plan to diagnose exposure, make structural adjustments, diversify your risks. This isn't just the story of a fallen giant. It's a playbook for building an organization structured for speed. To fully grasp the magnitude of Nokia's fall, one must first understand the height from which it fell. In the mid-2000s, Nokia was not just a market leader. It was the market itself. The company was a global colossus, a synonym for the mobile phone. Its brand was more than just recognized. It was a symbol of reliability, innovation, connection for hundreds of millions worldwide. This was not a fleeting moment of success, but a sustained period of absolute dominance that made the company seem truly untouchable. Nokia's position was so entrenched that for many analysts and consumers, imagining a world without Nokia at the helm was simply impossible. This perception was built on more than brand loyalty. It was underpinned by a formidable business machine. Nokia possessed a manufacturing and logistics operation of breathtaking scale. It could design, produce, and ship millions of handsets with speed and cost-effectiveness that its rivals could only dream of. Its distribution network was a masterpiece of global reach, penetrating Western markets and building presence in Asia, Africa, Latin America. This operational supremacy created enormous barriers to entry. The company's culture projected an aura of invincibility. Headquartered in Finland, Nokia was national pride, a titan of European industry. Executives were seen as strategic masterminds who navigated shifts from rubber and cables to electronics to mobile communications. That history created an internal narrative that Nokia could adapt to anything. The organization believed it uniquely understood consumers and technology, reinforced by quarter after quarter of record results and unparalleled market share. But that confidence contained seeds of complacency. Success made Nokia rigid. The organization believed its strengths in hardware manufacturing and supply chain management would win any future battle. It viewed the market through past victories, failing to see the rules were changing. The untouchable colossus stood on a platform growing unstable, yet the view from the top hid the tremors below. The story of Nokia's peak is best told through its numbers, which were staggering by any measure. At its zenith in 2007, the company held a global market share that hovered around 40%. This meant that for every 10 phones sold anywhere in the world, 4 were made by Nokia. In some quarters, this figure even approached 50%. This was not the narrow leadership of a single product category. It was comprehensive dominance across all segments. Basic durable handsets sold in developing nations. Feature-rich devices popular in Europe and North America. No company before or since has commanded such a share of the mobile device market. Financially, Nokia was a powerhouse. In that same peak year of 2007, the company generated revenues exceeding 51 billion euros and profits of over 7 billion euros. To put this into perspective, Nokia's mobile phone division alone was more profitable than many of its largest competitors combined. This immense profitability fueled a massive research and development budget, allowing the company to employ thousands of the world's brightest engineers and designers. It had the financial resources to outinvest, to outmarket, and to outmaneuver any potential challenger. The company was not just winning, it was operating on a completely different economic scale from the rest of the industry. The sheer volume of its output was another key metric of its dominance. Nokia was shipping hundreds of millions of handsets per year. In 2007 alone, it sold approximately 437 million mobile devices. This incredible volume gave it immense leverage over component suppliers, allowing it to secure the best parts at the lowest prices. It also reinforced its powerful relationships with mobile network operators around the globe who relied on Nokia's steady stream of popular products to attract and retain subscribers. The scale of its operation created a virtuous cycle. High volume led to lower costs, which allowed for competitive pricing, which in turn drove even higher volume. This quantitative dominance created a powerful strategic moat. Any competitor wishing to challenge Nokia would need to design a better product. They would need to manufacture it at a comparable scale and cost, and then distribute it through a global network that Nokia had spent over a decade building. The task seemed insurmountable. The metrics all pointed to a single undeniable conclusion. Nokia was the undisputed king of the mobile world. This data-backed reality made it even harder for the company's leadership to recognize that the very metrics they used to measure their success were about to become irrelevant. Nokia's market dominance was not built on a single iconic product, but on an entire empire of them. The company was a master of market segmentation, creating a vast and diverse portfolio of devices designed to meet the specific needs and desires of virtually every type of consumer. At the low end, models like the Nokia 1100, durability, simplicity, incredible battery life, selling over 250 million units, connecting vast swathes of the developing world to the mobile grid for the first time. These devices were not just products, essential tools, lifelines, cemented the Nokia brand as reliable and accessible to all. In the mid-range, Nokia offered a dizzying array of choices, form factors, colors, features, express music phones for music lovers, fashion collection devices, countless other variations that allowed for personal expression. Nokia understood that a mobile phone was becoming a personal statement. It capitalized on this trend by flooding the market with options. This strategy was incredibly effective, overwhelming competitors through sheer breadth, ensuring that whatever a customer was looking for, a Nokia device was likely available to fit their budget and taste. At the high end of its empire were the N series, E series. Devices like the Nokia N95, launched in 2007, were technological marvels for their time. The N95 was a multimedia computer that packed a 5-megapixel camera, GPS navigation, Wi-Fi, a web browser, into a sophisticated dual slider design. It was, by many measures, a more capable hardware device than the original iPhone released in the same year. The E-series, targeted at business professionals, offered robust email capabilities, productivity tools, directly challenging the dominance of BlackBerry in the corporate world. These devices demonstrated Nokia's immense engineering prowess and its ambition to lead the nascent smartphone market. However, this product empire, for all its breadth and technological sophistication, had a critical flaw. It was an empire built on the logic of hardware. Each device, while different on the surface, ran on variations of the same aging and fragmented operating system, Symbian. The user experience was inconsistent. The ecosystem for third-party applications was primitive and cumbersome compared to what was coming. Nokia was focused on building a portfolio of distinct products, each a self-contained island of functionality. It failed to see that the future was not about selling individual boxes, but about selling access to a unified, seamless, ever-expanding software platform. While Nokia reigned supreme, the technological landscape was quietly undergoing a seismic shift. The core of this shift was the transition from hardware-centric feature phones to software-centric smartphones. For years, the value of a mobile phone was determined by its physical attributes: size, screen quality, camera resolution, battery life. Nokia was the undisputed master of this domain. However, a new paradigm was emerging where the value of a device was increasingly defined not by its hardware specifications, but by the software it ran and the ecosystem of applications and services it could access. This was a fundamental change in the rules of competition. The first tremors of this storm were felt not from traditional mobile phone manufacturers, but from companies rooted in the world of personal computing and the internet. Apple, with its deep expertise in user interface design and software integration, was preparing to redefine the smartphone experience with the iPhone. Google, the master of internet services and open platforms, was developing Android, an OS it planned to give away to handset makers. These new entrants were not thinking about building a better phone. They were thinking about building a better mobile computing platform. Nokia was not entirely oblivious to this trend. Its own high-end N-series devices were a clear attempt to create a multimedia computer. The company had even been experimenting with touchscreens and app stores long before its new rivals. However, its efforts were hampered by its own internal structure. The hardware divisions, which had long been the source of the company's power and profits, clashed with the nascent software teams. The Symbian operating system, a complex patchwork of code acquired and developed over many years, was notoriously difficult to adapt for touch-based interfaces and rich internet experiences. The coming storm was one of software, and Nokia was a hardware company. The context of Nokia's peak is therefore one of profound irony. The company appeared to be at its strongest and most unassailable at the precise moment its foundational advantages were becoming obsolete. Its dominance in manufacturing, distribution, brand were all predicated on a world where hardware was king. As the industry pivoted towards software and ecosystems, these strengths became less relevant and in some cases even became liabilities that slowed adaptation. The storm was gathering, but from the fortress Nokia had built, the changing winds were mistaken for a passing breeze. The focus remained on the existing empire, not on the new world being born. Part 3. Act 2. Introduce the framework, speed versus structure gap. Section 1. The anatomy of slowness. Section 2. Decision cycle length. Section 3. Innovation pipeline speed. Section 4. Internal communication friction. Section 1. Risk dimension 1. The paralyzing force of bureaucracy. The first structural risk we will break down is internal bureaucracy. We define this risk as an organizational structure so complex and layered that it actively prevents timely decision-making and clear accountability. It wasn't just a matter of having too many managers or meetings, it was a systemic condition. The company operated under a deeply entrenched matrix structure. Product lines, software platforms, regional sales units all had overlapping and often conflicting authority. This created a web of dependencies where any significant strategic move required a slow and painful process of consensus building among dozens of stakeholders, each guarding their own territory and budget. True leadership was replaced by committee management. The historical evidence of this bureaucracy is overwhelming. Following the launch of the iPhone in 2007, Nokia's leadership knew they needed a radical response, yet the organization was incapable of executing one. The decision to focus on a next-generation operating system was debated endlessly. Symbian, the incumbent, Maemo, the Linux-based challenger. This internal OS war, which raged for years, perfectly illustrates the paralysis. Instead of making a swift, decisive choice and committing the company's full resources, the leadership allowed both to continue, splitting focus and investment, and ultimately ensuring neither could succeed against the unified efforts of Apple, Google. The ignored warning signal was the consistent failure to launch truly disruptive products despite having them in development. The company's own internal reports from as early as 2005 highlighted the cumbersome nature of the Symbian OS and the growing threat from software-led competitors. Talented engineers, mid-level managers, they repeatedly flagged the organizational gridlock that was preventing them from competing effectively. They warned that the company's complex processes were strangling innovation. Leadership saw these signals not as a systemic crisis, but as localized frustrations, believing the company's sheer scale and profitability could override any internal inefficiencies. They mistook internal friction for the normal cost of doing business at scale. But here's where it became dangerous. The structural consequence of this bureaucracy was a complete erosion of speed and agility. While Apple was iterating on its iPhone annually with a singular vision and a ruthlessly efficient decision-making structure, Nokia was stuck in multi-year debates about its own strategy. The bureaucracy created a fatal decision lag. By the time Nokia finally abandoned its internal OS war and partnered with Microsoft in 2011, it was 4 years too late. The market had been lost. Financial resources, human resources, the bureaucracy rendered them ineffective, creating a slow-moving target that its faster rivals outmaneuvered. Section 2, Risk Dimension 2, the software ecosystem failure. The second structural risk dimension is the software ecosystem failure. We define this risk as the inability of a company to build and nurture a thriving platform for third-party developers, which is essential for creating long-term value in a software-driven market. It's not just about having an app store. It's about making it easy and profitable for developers to create compelling experiences for your users. Nokia understood the concept of an ecosystem, but its organizational structure and technical fragmentation made it impossible to execute. It failed to provide developers with a single, stable, and attractive target for their efforts, a mistake that proved to be catastrophic in the long run. Historically, Nokia's approach to software was a mess of fragmentation. S60, S80, S90, Symbian Cubed, the Q development framework, Memo/Migo. Porting an application across Nokia's own device portfolio was a nightmare. In contrast, Apple's iOS and Google's Android each offered a relatively unified platform with clear tools and a direct path to a massive growing user base. Nokia asked developers to do more work for a smaller, more fractured and shrinking audience. The critical ignored warning signal was the anemic state of its OV store, which Nokia launched in 2009. While Apple's App Store was exploding with hundreds of thousands of apps and generating billions of downloads, the OV Store remained a barren landscape. The number of apps was low, the quality was poor, and the user experience for downloading them was clunky. This was a direct market signal that developers were not embracing the platform. Instead of treating this as a 5-alarm fire and radically simplifying their developer proposition, Nokia executives focused on vanity metrics like the number of countries the store was available in, ignoring the fundamental lack of engagement from the developer community. But here's where it became dangerous. The structural consequence of this ecosystem failure was that Nokia's devices became progressively less valuable to consumers, regardless of their hardware quality. A smartphone's utility is a function of its apps. As consumers saw their friends on iPhones and Androids using Instagram, playing Angry Birds, and accessing a world of novel services, Nokia's phones began to look like relics. The hardware, no matter how good the camera or how sleek the design, could not compensate for the massive software and service gap. This failure turned Nokia's products from desirable gadgets into isolated dead ends, accelerating the exodus of its customer base. The story of Nokia is not just a lesson in corporate history. It is a direct warning about a risk that every business and professional faces today. Nokia wasn't weak, it was slow. This slowness, this delay in adaptation, is what magnifies risk until it becomes insurmountable. The core lesson can be translated into a practical diagnostic tool for your own situation. We can express this vulnerability with a simple but powerful formula: your decision lag risk. This formula helps you quantify your exposure to the same structural slowness that crippled Nokia. It measures the gap between your financial commitments and your ability to pivot when circumstances change unexpectedly. The formula is as follows. Decision lag risk equals the time it takes you to adjust expenses divided by the time it takes for your income to be disrupted. Think about it in concrete terms. How quickly can you reduce your major monthly costs? Office leases, software subscriptions, personal expenses like a mortgage. For many, these are fixed for months or years. Now consider the other side of the equation. How quickly can your income change? A major client can be lost, a project can be cancelled, a new competitor can emerge. This creates a dangerous mismatch. This brings us to two critical tactical questions you must ask yourself. First, are your decision cycles too slow? Reflect on the last time you needed to make a significant change. Did it take days, weeks, or months? Was the process bogged down by analysis paralysis, a need for consensus, simple procrastination? Second, is your financial structure slowing down your ability to pivot? If your costs are rigid and your income is variable, your structure is inherently brittle. A high decision lag risk means that when a shock comes, you will be bleeding cash long before you can make the necessary adjustments to survive. This is the modern professional's version of Nokia's predicament. The goal is not to eliminate all fixed costs or make decisions impulsively. The goal is to become consciously aware of your own structural rigidity. By calculating your decision lag risk, you move from a vague sense of unease to a specific measurable problem. It forces you to confront the reality of your financial and operational flexibility. Are you built for speed? Or are you, like Nokia, a powerful entity whose very structure makes it too slow to navigate the sharp turns of the modern economy? Answering this question honestly is the first step toward building genuine, lasting resilience in a world that rewards speed above all else. Understanding your decision lag risk is the diagnosis. The next step is the treatment. To counter this structural vulnerability, you need a tactical plan. We call this the 3-step resilience shield. This is not a complex strategic overhaul, but a set of clear, measurable actions designed to increase your agility and reduce the friction that slows you down. These steps are designed to systematically decrease the numerator in our risk formula, the time it takes to adjust, while building buffers to withstand shocks to the denominator, your income. Speed is a resilience multiplier, and this plan is about building a structure that enables speed. The first step is to deliberately increase your variable cost structure. This runs counter to traditional business wisdom, which often seeks to lock in low rates with long-term contracts. Instead, you should actively seek out flexible arrangements, shorter leases, using subscription-based software instead of buying perpetual licenses, engaging skilled contractors for projects instead of hiring full-time employees for every role. For an individual, it might mean prioritizing a lower mortgage over a larger house. Each fixed cost you convert to a variable one is a lever that shortens your decision cycle length, giving you more options when you need to pivot fast. The second step is to maintain emergency liquidity. This is your tactical reserve, the fuel for fast moves. The standard advice of having 3 to 6 months of expenses is a starting point, but we need to be more precise. Your liquidity target should be directly tied to your decision lag risk. If you know it takes you 6 months to reasonably change your cost structure, then you need at least that much in accessible cash reserves to survive the transition. This liquidity is not just a defensive safety net, it is an offensive weapon. It gives you the freedom to make strategic decisions without being driven by short-term financial desperation. The third and final step is to develop rapid income alternatives. A single source of income, whether from one employer or one major client, makes you fragile. The goal here is to build and maintain at least 1 or 2 alternative income streams, even if they are small. A consulting side project, a small digital product, a marketable skill you can deploy on short notice. The key is to have these alternatives developed and tested before you need them. This diversifies your risk and dramatically reduces the time it would take to replace a disrupted primary income stream, directly improving your resilience shield and ensuring you're never caught flat-footed. Speed is your shield. To make this actionable, here is a simple, disciplined implementation plan. In the next 30 days, diagnose your exposure. Calculate your decision lag risk. Be honest about your fixed costs and income fragility. In the following 60 days, make one structural adjustment. Convert your largest or easiest fixed cost to a variable one. Start building your emergency liquidity. By day 90, begin risk diversification. Identify and start developing one rapid income alternative. It doesn't need to be large, it just needs to be real. The collapse of Nokia was not a sudden event. It was the culmination of a long, slow, structural decay. The company's turning point was not the launch of the iPhone in 2007, but the years of internal paralysis that followed. This was the period when the speed versus structure gap became a chasm. While the market accelerated, Nokia's bureaucracy kept it locked in place. Its fragmented software strategy kept it locked in place. Its hardware-centric culture kept it locked in place. The market responded to this slowness with brutal efficiency. Customers, once fiercely loyal, migrated in droves to platforms with a superior software experience. That left Nokia's beautiful but isolated hardware behind. Record profits turned into staggering losses in just a few years. This story reinforces a critical lesson in modern strategy. Collapse is rarely sudden. It is structural. It's the predictable outcome of a mismatch between internal design and the external environment. The company was a giant with a crippled nervous system. It could see the threat. It had the strength to fight, but it could not command its own limbs to move in a coordinated, timely way. What early signal do you think Nokia's leadership ignored the most? Reflecting on their blindness helps us sharpen our own vision, so we spot structural cracks before they lead to collapse. The failure of Nokia provides a powerful lesson in the dangers of strategic slowness and structural rigidity. It shows even dominant positions are fragile if a company cannot move at the speed its industry demands. It is a failure of speed, but slowness isn't the only structural risk. Sometimes the seeds of destruction aren't in the innovation pipeline or the decision-making cycle, but in the cold, hard numbers of the balance sheet. Sometimes it's not speed or innovation, but an unforgiving matter of debt. In the next Corporate Risk Autopsy, we examine Toys R Us and the debt rigidity score. We'll show how leverage buyouts loaded the retailer with insurmountable debt, starving it of capital to compete with agile e-commerce players and big box stores. Join us as we uncover lessons from a giant that wasn't too slow, but too indebted to survive.